So by some grace or superior intervention or kindness or mercy, as the Dalai Lama would say, or any of the great masters would say, by some mercy, we're actually allowed a climate and we're able to stay, and civilization can continue to develop. This is the longest civilization known. We've already outrun the Roman civilization. All the civilizations were much shorter lived. Our Western civilization is already way longer than any other civilization. Mind you, it's threatened. It's threatened from the east by the tribes, the original old tribes, the older Teutonic and Mongolian tribes are bursting into Ukraine. We have in the Middle East. The Old Testament is the story of war. The Hittites and the Mennonites and the Hashemites, and that is still ongoing in the Middle East and what we call the Holy Land and so forth. So sadly that is still going on. And it's a pity because we don't have to have murder in our hearts. We don't have to. It takes so many calories to carry murder in your heart. It doesn't take a single calorie to remember your next breath. It doesn't take a single calorie to go internalize within and remember we're alive. It's important that we remember we're alive because very few humans on earth know they are alive. Sounds weird. Sister said, say that again to me on Sunday, and the monk said it. I said, very few of us even know we're alive. We're not practicing being alive. We're not practicing peace. I don't want to change the world. The world doesn't need change. I need to change my world. We need to change our world. Id est, I mean, raise our consciousness really quick. As St. John's Gospel said, in the time of the beast, those in the time of the unconsciousness, the intelligent will head for high ground. The people that know what's going on will go to the mountains. Well, the mountain is an image of trying to get more refined, trying to get more turned on, more sensitized, trying to become more internal, more balanced. I'll say once again, it is very difficult. It may not be possible to defeat depression on a planet that is exhausted. Keep that in mind. So that we need to keep up our native trees. I'm not interested in Sitka spruces. I know they've a commercial remit. I've been asked by a number of people already since I got back to Macroom on Sunday night what's going on with Gugong Barra. I'll just explain it very briefly. Last Friday there was an article in the Cork Examiner as a follow-up to an article in the Southern Star in July, as a follow-up to an article in the Southern Star in March, as a follow-up to an article in the Irish Times in February. And I'm representing the environmental group and I'm challenging, why was there so much timber and trees? Why are the shoulders of the sacred hermitage of Gugong filled with death and decay? These were young 70, 80-year-old larch. They had 100 years ahead of them. What is this rush for profit, but particularly in a hermitage? Gugong Barra is not just your average Sitka spruce forest. In 1967 it was officially opened as a public park, never to be managed commercially. And today we now see that mountains are claimed, and of course we're told that it's a disease. Well, I haven't been happy with the response. And it just so happens that a few weeks ago the government published the National Landscape Strategy, the future of the Irish landscape. And the first and foremost thing, coming from Rio 21 years ago, working with local communities, working with local individuals, working with people that are affected by development, is the cornerstone of sustainable development. Looking after our wild spaces and consulting the human communities that are affected by the dams or new roads or whatever, that has to happen. So I was very interested to see that in the draft national strategy, Coillte is on the steering committee and Coillte supports that call for increased human public participation, participatory democracy, environmental citizenship, the same old words. I've been trying to practice that in the name of the group and it has been really, really problematic. I'm getting phone calls threatening me with rebuttal or law. Meanwhile, some very senior United Nations scientists have wrote in, particularly Diana Beresford, and said she was filming for National Geographic in the Larchwood last August. She's a trained plant pathologist. She saw no disease. But in any event, we'll leave that at the moment. I wanted to explain that because you're entitled to an explanation.